read in the theories somewhere that the jewels could have been got for 2,000 or 3,000 pounds, and it sounds like he was much more than that in debt.
It sounded to me like, depending on the version of the story, they're valued anywhere between 33,000 pounds and 50,000 pounds
at the time of their theft.
At the time of their theft. So, but that's as a single unit. Whereas you can't take this thing to a pawn shop and get rid of it. You're going to have to break it up.
No, right. You have to.
That makes sense.
So it would be worth less.
And
less,
we'll talk about that 2,000 or 3,000 pounds thing, because it's weird that they could be got for that kind of money. It's a really small sum of money.
Yeah.
There's a guy by the name, and this is a great name, Bulmer Hobson.
I'm sorry, Bulmer?
Bulmer Hobson.
Is it Bulmer or Bulmer?
Well, it could be that one too.
Yeah.
He interviewed Gorges in 1912, so this is the army buddy of Shackleton. Mm-hmm. And in that interview, Gorges strongly hinted at his involvement in the crime and that Shackleton was his co-conspirator. There's also a letter from Vickers to Shackleton, and Vickers wrote this on the 25th of August, 1907. And this was also read into that inquiry that we talked about. And in that letter, Vickers made it pretty clear that he and Goldney suspected Shackleton knew more than he had admitted to. And when Vickers was interviewed by that detective that we talked about earlier, who said he knew who did it, Vickers said, and I quote, that they were taken by a man who you know well. He was a guest in my house, and he treacherously took impressions of my keys when I was in my bath. He often came to this office on Sundays, and he used my latch key to get in. He is in Paris at the moment. Which Shackleton went from England to Paris. He then traveled from Paris back to Dublin for the inquiry. Came in, did his inquiry, and then immediately turned around and left again. He's doing a lot of finger pointing, so there's all this finger pointing that it could have been Shackleton, but there's no real good concrete evidence.
Not really. That Vickers was pretty adamant. He even noted in his will. Mm-hmm. In his will, he accused Shackleton of being the thief.
Yeah.
I guess, but at the same time, you can kind of look at it like, if you were guilty of it, and you found somebody who, people are kind of thinking, well, it could have been this person, right? Mm-hmm. I guess it's vaguely hot, the potential for you to say, oh, yeah, it was totally that person, and here's, all the reasons that I think it was that person.
Sure.
I'm not sure that you wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Well, the problem, and here's the other thing about Shackleton, he wasn't the best guy in the world himself either.
It doesn't sound like any of these guys were good guys.
Well, no, but Shackleton himself, he went to prison in 1913 for trying to cheat some lady out of a bunch of money, her inheritance. Mm-hmm. And so he went to jail I think he was in jail for 20 years.
Oh, was it that long?
Yeah, he was in jail for 10 or 20 years. I didn't
realize it was that long. I knew he went to jail.
He's the longest living one of the group of the 5 guys that we're talking about here.
Oh, so he spent time in jail after this.
Yes.
Yeah,
so 5 years after this theft happens, he goes to jail for 10 or 20 years.
Okay.
And that's the only reason he ends up living as long as he did. And we'll talk about the death of these guys as well here in a little bit. But let's move on. So we'll move away from Shackleton.
Okay.
A little bit, actually. And we'll go to what Joe was talking about, which is or was it you or Joe that talked about them being able to be had for a small amount of money?
Oh, it was me.
Okay. So this next theory is that the Irish government has had them all along, and 1976, an Irish government document is released, a memorandum, which is dated 1927, which is 20 years after the theft. And then another 50 years later, it gets released as public record.
Freedom of information affects
essentially,
them as well.
Yes. And it says the castle jewels are for sale, and they could be got for 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. Well, people interpret this that the jewels had not been broken apart and they were still intact as of 1927.
Sure.
They also infer that they could be purchased and that maybe the government wanted to purchase them to keep down the Irish people. In other words, a lot of these orders at this point in the late 20s, they're gone. because if you look at Irish history, this is at the beginning of a lot of the turmoil where you have unionists and anti-unionists in Ireland. Basically the crown has said you can be free or not. The Protestants and the Catholic fight, which makes the IRA, which is a lot of stuff that we know in more current history. But that's right around when that stuff was happening. So they probably didn't, if we're going to say that the crown had them, they didn't want it out there that, hey, we found these.
You guys are restored to your former glory.
Yes,
Yeah.
we want you to stay down so that we can keep control of the ones that we have control of and not have this big kerfuffle happen.
That
Yeah,
kind of, I mean,
possible.
that does make sense.
That must mean they're in the Tower of London then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where else would they keep them?
Where else would they keep them?
Yeah.
The other direction that this whole the Irish or the government has them is, you remember how we talked about Shackleton might be having some bit of mystery or information that was embarrassing?
Yeah.
So it might be that they did have them, somebody knew about it, and maybe were trying to sell them, and then that got quelled and they got stuffed in a shelf or in a drawer somewhere in an archive with the Ark of the Covenant, and they'll never be seen again.
Right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So
But I just, like, for the sake of correcting you all the time, every time, Ark of the Covenant wouldn't fit in a drawer.
if it's a big enough drawer, it'll fit.
It's a pretty big
true.
thing.
Big drawer.
A drawer is a
It has to
drawer,
be a
whether it's the
huge- it
size
has to
of the
be a-
house or the size of a watch.
All right, if we're saying it's a room-sized drawer,
There's still a drawer. So leave the drawers out of this.
sorry.
Okay,
All right.
well, regardless of which way it goes down, there was a lot of really odd behavior on the part of the Irish government.
So what's new about that?
Well, their record keeping leaves a lot to be desired. Remember we talked about that police report that disappeared?
Yeah.
There's all kinds of records from this time and this case that have disappeared. Now, a lot of it has been put up on the net. I mean, you can read these old it's funny to read the old typewritten accounts, because I forget that typewriters aren't even, whereas a word processor today is. So I'm reading going, wow, this computer sucks, this scan is terrible. Oh, no, wait, that's just the way the typewriter wrote it, is kind of up and down and uneven.
Right, because you,
Yeah.
We're used to these things now, but some of these things are there, and some of them are just flat out gone. But that takes us to our last theory.
I was gonna say whiskey, man.
That's your theory? Is it the whiskey?
No, I mean whiskey makes you do dumb things. So
It does. It really does. All right, well, let's go to our last theory. We're going to move ahead to 1998, and there's an article in the Kerryman, which is an Irish newspaper,
of course it is.
and there's a guy by the name of Michael Murphy, who is the nephew of
Michael Murphy.
Michael Murphy,
Of course.
who was the valet of Arthur Vickers. And he did a bunch of research on this, and he said he discovered the hiding place of the Irish crown jewels at Kilmoma House. Is that how you pronounce that? Anybody have any better idea?
Kilmora.
Kilmora?
I don't see it.
Kilmorna.
Kilmorna.
House,
Thank
yeah.
you. Kilmorna House. On Friday, the 14th of August, 1998,
Just 12 years ago.
just 12 years ago, maybe a little more than
16
that,
years ago.
Should have not 12.
Murphy was instructed by a quote-unquote informant to go to the old garden of the house, where he discovered a stone behind a brick wall with a Latin inscription.
Of course.
He believed the jewels had been removed from that box that was in the stone. He said he found a portion of an old map and other documents from the house before it was burned, and that indicated to him that someone had stolen the jewels and solved the mystery. But here's the thing.
Now, Kilmorna House, that was Vickers' house.
That was
right?
Vickers' house, and it was razed to the ground in 1921.
Yeah, it was burned by the IRA.
The IRA burned it down. Now,
And they murdered Vickers.
they murdered Vickers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, or Shackleton did not get off easy. The IRA killed Vickers in 1921. Like 30 guys shot him at once, and then they burned his house. We've got Bennett Goldney. He died in 1918 after a car accident. Shackleton.
Very convenient car, actually.
Yeah, Shackleton died in 1941. He served his prison sentence, went out under a different name, and then died of old age. And Sidney, what was his name? Horlock. Sidney Horlock. I came across how he died, and then when I went to find it again, I couldn't find it. But he died in the 19-teens as well, if I remember correctly, and it wasn't a pleasant end. Like,
what happened?
I don't remember.
You got fed into a wood chipper or something like that?
Yeah, a 1900s version of a wood chipper, basically.
Powered, but yeah,
none of these guys did really well. But as we said, it's very plausible that if these things got stolen, the jewels had to have been broken up to be resold. Now, if they're top quality diamonds and rubies and emeralds, even in a new piece, they're gonna fetch top dollar.
Yeah.
But they're not gonna be traceable. But that's all we know. We don't know exactly where they disappeared or who could have actually stolen them, other than Joe, who swears it was the cleaning lady.
Well, I mean,
yeah,
it
of
probably
course it was. No, I don't know. It might have been the cleaning lady. I mean, it just sounds like sounds like Vickers was careless enough about security and about keeping his keys, like close to him.
He's really terrible.
Yeah, it seems to me like there's a whole lot of people that could have stolen, including the cleaning lady. This was also essentially a police station. There were lots of cops coming and going, and
which I mean, not to say anything bad about police, but they are known to have corruption.
It does happen, and so I mean, there's all kinds of people that come and go in that building that could have stolen these things. So
yeah, wow. I mean, do you guys have a theory that you adhere to, or you prefer?
I'm going to stick with Shackleton just for the sheer heck of it. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Devin?
No, I mean, I think they all kind of seem equally inept and dumb and bad at their jobs, and kind of they all have good reason to have stolen them. I mean, if for sheer, you can break it up and sell them for a good amount of money. I mean, I don't think that I can't pick one kind of rich entitled jerk over another, right? I mean, they all kind of sound the same.
Yeah, I have a hard time pinning it down. I mean, the one theory that we really haven't talked about is there's a group known as the Irish Brotherhood. There was talk that they had smuggled them out of the country to be sold in the United States. But that's as far as that theory goes.
The Illuminati.
Yeah, I mean, well, the Irish Brotherhood is the early version of the IRA.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I couldn't find anything to even lend a credence other than it was a rumor. So I gotta agree that I think that it's just that Shackleton was so inept that there were so many people. Excuse me, thank you.
Yeah.
Wasn't Shackleton? I don't think Shackleton did it. I think he was kind of the easy scapegoat in this. The quote unquote guy who was bad with money, air quotes here that nobody can see.
He would be the obvious.
And that Vickers just left the door open, and he was just waiting for somebody to come in and steal the sheep.
Yeah.
And
or he stole them himself. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, except that he never lived a lavish lifestyle. Once he was expelled from office, it wasn't like he was living high on the hog or emigrated to another country to live lavishly. So that's the reason that I don't think Vickers himself did it.
I guess it's hard to tell because, if you do that sort of thing and you get away with it, you go and live a lavish lifestyle. But if you've been called into questioning and there's like a private inquiry into you, are you gonna be smart enough to say like, oh crap, I better wait it out a couple more years and then you get shot to death by the
14 years later.
Well,
that's a long time to wait it out, to lie low.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, granted, there's been thieves who have stolen major pieces of art and waited 20 or 30 years to try to sell it. But still, I don't know. I have a hard time pointing the finger at Vickers.
I agree.
But that's just me. But ladies and gentlemen, if you've got any thoughts of your own, we'd love to hear about them. You can always put a comment on the website with your thoughts about this particular story. That website is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. Of course. .com. Of course, you can listen to the shows there. You can listen to them on iTunes and download, subscribe through there. If you're on iTunes, go ahead and take the time to leave us a comment and a rating. We always like that. If you forget to download a show and you know that it's that day that we're going to put one out.
Thursday.
We
don't have to be secretive about it. It's Thursday.
It's Thursday.
Is it Thursday?
Thursday's my favorite day of the week. That's why we do it on Thursdays. No, not really. But you can go ahead and you can download, or not download is the wrong word. You can stream it on Stitcher. Stitcher will allow you to listen to it streaming on any mobile-ready device, tablet, phone, whatever the case may be.
Wow, that's so cool.
I know. Isn't it amazing, Joe?
It truly is amazing.
I know it's your first time to learn about this. But
Yeah.
now, of course, we've got the Facebook page, so we've got the group, and we've got the page, so please find us and friend us on those to see what we've got going on, things we're putting up. There's some good discussions. And, of course, if you're actually the one who stole the jewels or related to the one who stole the jewels,
we'd like
and
to
you want
talk
to
to
tell
you.
us,
Yeah.
you can send us an email.
And it's all in confidence.
Absolutely not in confidence.
Yeah.
That email, we're going to read that on the air.
Oh, we'll keep your name quiet, though.
That email address is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. And with that, I guess that's all we've got.
Yeah.
Wait, so, yeah, kind of a short one this week. Sorry about that, kids. We know you like the...
Yeah, short is an average time.
Yeah.
It's average, you guys.
Yeah.
It's average.
Yes.
I don't know. I think that we haven't... this is kind of unusual, but we haven't solved the mystery, really.
No. I did this to you on purpose, Joe. All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up, and we will talk to you next week.
So long, everybody.
I do own them, though. Really. Why are you looking at me like that? I own them.
Sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know. Insufficient data for
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hey, everybody. It's Thinking Sideways, the podcast. I'm Devin, joined, as always, by...
Joe.
And...
Steve.
And we're going to do a group show again this week. We do these every once in a while. Not too frequently. We don't want to bore you with our format, but
they all bore them.
we tend to do our group shows on a theme.
Yep.
And this week, our theme is time travel. Don't worry, it won't be the only episode we ever do on time travel. Calm down.
But we've been getting a lot of time travel requests.
Yeah. And I can hear you hyperventilating. But we all have stories that we really liked that we thought maybe didn't make up an entire episode. So we're just going to each talk about our stories. You guys ready to do this?
Let's do it.
Okay. Oh, and before we get too far into this, we always like to say big shout out to this listener for suggesting this, but literally all of these have literally been suggested like 5 or 6 times.
They have.
So if you suggested it, congratulations! You're a suggester for the Team Sideways time travel group show special extravaganza.
Yeah.
That's what we're calling this one,
Give
right?
yourself a pat
The
on the
time
back.
travel extravaganza?
No, I know. It was a longer name than that.
The time travel palooza.
Time Travel Palooza.
That's what it is.
Okay.
All right.
Let's start the time travel palooza.
So I think Joe is going to start first.
Yeah.
We're going to
so-
just do chronological, right?
Yeah, exactly. People have been
Great.
popping into the 20th century at various times, and so we'll start with the earliest one. This one starts in 1950. One night in mid-June at about 11:15 p.m. in New York City, witnesses, including a police officer, saw a man standing in the middle of a busy intersection near Times Square. Some accounts of this put it right in Times Square, but anyway, somewhere close by there. Nobody had noticed him walking out into the street, but they saw him standing there, and he was staring around him, quote, gawking at the signs as if he had never seen an electric sign before, unquote, as one witness put it. And then he seemed to notice that he was surrounded by fast-moving metal boxes and started to move towards the sidewalk, but unfortunately was run over by a cab, and he died at the scene.
Oh.
This is why I don't like cabs.
Yeah.
So a short trip for this guy, this time traveler. The policeman that was there noticed that the man was dressed oddly, and then he had some very unstylish mutton chop sideburns, like were popular like way back when.
Yeah, but it's New York, so it's hard to tell.
That's true.
Well,
yeah.
and they're popular today.
Yeah, but he was wearing old-style clothes, a suit coat, had a high-cut vest with lapels, he had black and white checked pants, and high-button shoes. And, essentially, he was wearing 19th century clothing, mid-1950s New York. So that seemed a little odd. He was taken to the morgue, his body was taken to the morgue, and it was searched, and some things were found in his pockets. Number one, some business cards with the name Rudolph Fentz, that's F-E-N-T-Z. So that is our time traveler, Rudolph Fentz. The cards also had an address on Fifth Avenue. There was a letter to him sent to that Fifth Avenue address dated June 1876 from Philadelphia. A copper token and some